All right. Now that we have passed the coffee stores as props in our homepage right here, let's make sure that we also render a title because title is missing right now. So you'll see there is no Toronto stores title. Let's go ahead and add that. Now let's add over here, let's say h2, and we can give it a class name, which would be styles dot heading 2. And here we can add Toronto Coffee Stores as our title. Now, the second thing we want to do is we see this Toronto stores rendered right here. Before we go ahead and add the styling for the heading, let's make sure that these stores only render when there is some data. So this title should only render when there are actually coffee stores. Because if there are no Toronto coffee stores, then there is no point rendering this title. So let's go ahead and do that. So we can do something like coffee stores dot length is greater than 0. In that case, basically render a empty div right here, and we can wrap it all up. Whoops, there is an error. So let's do and right here, and let's save it. No, it's not happy with me. So let's make sure that we align it just like that. There's a div, there is a div, and we are missing a curly brace. Beautiful. All right. Now, we don't necessarily need a div right here. We can also add an empty tag just like that. And this will satisfy the condition of React that both these elements need to have a root div or a root element. And this just adds a empty fragment into the page. And this is a syntax wherein an empty fragment would be like, it won't be showing any element on the DOM, but it satisfies the React condition of having a root element. So let's check it out. Now over here, nothing changes because we do have stores. Now if I were to go here and remove the stores, or let's just make it an empty array, then you will see that the title is also gone. That's what we want. All right, bringing back the stores again and going back to the home page. Now let's go ahead and add the style heading 2. Now going to home.module.css right here, and let's add the style just underneath the card. And we can say heading 2, and we can give it a font size of 2.25 rem. Let's give it a line height as well of 2.5 rem. Padding bottom because we do want some padding underneath the title. Margin as well because we also want some margin on top. And lastly, a color. And we can change the text color to be white. So let's use our CSS variable for text white 100, I believe. And if I just go to global.css to confirm, yes, it is that. So that's what I've used here. Beautiful. Let's check it out now. And we can see that Toronto stores is looking good. All right. One last thing before we go is now we are accessing coffee stores dot length greater than 0. And we are accessing props.coffeestores.map. And this is good because these coffee stores are coming from get static props. Just like that. So anytime from get static props, it exposes props as coffee stores, then that's what gets exposed here, which is what we know. But it is confusing that the import is also called coffee stores. So just to be more verbose and avoid any mistakes in the future, let's rename this to data because this is essentially a data layer, right? It is essentially a layer which gives us a JSON file. So let's rename that and let's add coffee stores data just like that. So this way it's very clear that we are importing data and its key name that will be passed in our component is going to be coffee stores. All right, let's save this and make sure it works. And we need to make sure that coffee stores is props.coffeestores. So we can say over here that props.coffeestores.length is greater than 0 because that's coffee stores is something we get from props. And it's looking good again. So if I click again and here, go back to home. And we see an error, which is image is missing required source property. So let's take a look at that. It says that it's coming from an image component from Next.js. And if we go back to our code and go to index page, the refactor that we did is to add the props right here. And in our card component is where we are using the image. So let's go there. And we are passing an image URL right here, right? So if we go back to JSON file and image URL is right here. So let's make sure that the structure is good. So if you see, this has now turned into array within an array. So that's a miss. So that's a problem. So let's fix that. Let's remove this array and save it. Now it can access it and map through it. So if we go back, beautiful, there you go. So we have resolved that error. I'll see you in the next one.